So, hello guys, welcome to the new episode of Getting Started with Data Science with GIS and Ecology. With me, I have Minerva Singh. Hi, Minerva.
Hi everyone.
So Minerva is a data science and geospatial analysis expert. She has completed her MSc and MPhil in environmental science from University of Oxford and currently pursuing PhD in forest ecology and conservation. I have read few of her papers. She has done interesting work in tropical Asia, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Philippines, where she has done phenomenal work in how the forest footprint is affecting the carbon stocks in that region. Currently, Minerva is also helping a lot of professionals and organizations in training and consulting. Minerva, thanks again for taking our time.
Oh, well, thanks for having me over here.
So, Minerva will split this session into two parts, right? In
Sure.
first part, we'll do what do data scientists do, especially with the lens of GIS and ecology. And the
Got it.
second part, if somebody wants to become somebody like you, what should they do from to become from A to Z? What should they do? Right. So let's start with the first part. Uh,
Sure.
yeah. So what do data scientists in this domain do?
In my domain or in any domain in
No, no,
general?
in GIS and ecology.
Okay, so we've not used a lot of data science techniques in ecology and conservation so far. We mostly, I mean, when I started my PhD in 2012, we were almost using just statistical techniques, and the only place where machine learning and data science were being used was to handle hyperspectral data. Those are high dimensional data, and that's the only place where people would use machine learning because there was no other option. And that's how I digressed into machine learning, and it was quite new at that time. But now I'm thankful that in both ecology and GIS, we are using more and more machine learning. So what I did a lot during my PhD and I'll be doing in future is to use machine learning techniques in conjunction with the data that we collect in the field and satellite data. So we have satellite data from Landsat, from MODIS, or even laser data. We combine this within machine learning frameworks to build predictive maps of biomass, forest biomass,
Right.
or identify factors which influence the presence and persistence of species in an ecosystem. I've done that, you know, actually used machine learning algorithms to identify which factors contribute to the existence of a species, which factors are detrimental to the existence of species, and then we can carry out rapid large scale mapping of land use types, different forest types, because it's in places like Cambodia where you have landmines, we can't really do a lot of field work, so we'll only get a couple of geolocations here and there.
Right.
But with machine learning, you can actually build pretty big maps.
Right. I have few friends who are GIS analysts. So do
Yeah.
GIS analysts necessarily do work related data science, or these are two separate domains?
Oh, two separate domains. So far, there are very few people who work in both GIS and data science. I know I'm one of them, but essentially with GIS, what you have are geolocational data, data which have a geographic context to them. So that's what you do with GIS. So in GIS, you have, say, data pertaining to all the rivers or roads in a country. You may have data pertaining to forest cover,
Right.
or say data pertaining to light usage. So all
Ah.
of those maps that you see, maps of human development index, crime hotspot maps,
Right.
that's what GIS people do.
And
But
typically they would use what? ArcGIS or Power Maps? What tool?
anything, I've used ArcGIS, I've
Right.
used QGIS, and I also use R. R is the go-to tool, one of the go-to tools for data science, but actually you can use that for GIS as well. So I use R for,
Right.
because I work with both GIS and data science. So yes, R.
And so
Python, I think you
okay.
can use Python, and Google Earth Engine. Nowadays, Google Earth Engine, now that's pretty good.
So is the data open source for Google Earth Engine?
You can upload your own data. You can use, and they have a lot of open source data, including data such as the Landsat archives from the 1970s.
Wow. So,
It's
okay,
a lot of data. It's a lot of stuff going
right,
on.
right. And what's the most exciting part of your of a job for a data scientist?
Well, in my line of work, essentially seeing that how we can use. I don't work with big data. That's a thing in a way. Most of the data we have pretty sparse data. So the most exciting thing is that how do you gain? I mean, how do you gather insights and how do you derive anything useful from such limited sparse data and so many inputs,
Right,
and from
right.
Landsat data,
Okay.
etc., and then connecting it to the real life problems.
Right. Can you show the audience some application of the algorithms which you have used in the Asian region?
Yeah. Let me just pull up a map. I've been trying to pull up a map. Let's start by showing them
Sure.
map first. Sure. Now, what you see on my screen, now that's one of the most commonly used applications of data science in GIS applications and ecology. And what you see is a land cover map of a protected area in Cambodia. And over here we have things like, you can see cashew plantations, bare earth, selective logging. And what we did was that we went to the field and collected all these geolocations, and we collected as much as we could, and then we came back and actually had Landsat data. This was a straightforward application, and we went collected Landsat data, combined these, and we used a couple of different machine learning algorithms like decision trees to actually generate a map which shows the distribution of the different land use types. So over here, what we have is the orange bit, intact forest. So now we know from our experience that in this area, most of the intact forests are now concentrated in the northern part of the protected area, and our map ends up showing something similar. That you have this entire chunk of orange here and here, and this is where the intact forests are located, and rest of the whole protected area is actually quite, including you also have things like cashew plantations which cover most of the southern part of protected area. So now there are not many forests left in this part, and again we've actually been able to map out what the forest rangers in the park knew, and this just tells us about the state of the forest,
How did you
what we
use the
should prioritize.
decision tree algorithm? I mean, from based on the sampling you extrapolated over the larger scope of area?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay,
But that's how most machine learning algorithms work, that they seek to generalize basically.
correct.
So this paper was actually published, and it pertains to the spatial relations between above ground biomass and bird species in the Philippines, and we used a lot of machine learning in here along with GIS. So this was our study area, and we got a couple of different remote sensing data. So we had Landsat data, radar data, and then we actually used. So we got all of these variables, and these are all GIS data. So if you work with GIS, you'll work with these kind of data,
Okay,
distance from roads, elevation, slope, and so on. So we used all of these. So we actually managed to identify that some of these factors, they influence the bird species presence positively, and some of them they influence the bird species presence negatively. So
wow,
where you see this kind of a result, it tells me that distance from the road, the greater the distance from your road, the better it is for your bird species, and the closer you are to your roads, the more detrimental it is for their persistence. So this is the kind of work I ended up doing in the Philippines.
wow. How did people manage doing, I mean, coming to such kind of conclusions before, say, 5 or 7 years, before things like these exist?
Well, you couldn't, before data science and remote sensing data, you couldn't, such studies, they used to take a very long time, and you needed a lot of money and a lot of effort.
Right.
But one thing that data science now does is that actually you can get these analyses done quite quickly and quite rapidly.
Okay. Okay, and now a lot of myth versus reality kind of question. A lot of viewers, they keep on asking us such questions on
Sure.
how much money can I make being a data scientist in this domain, or is it worth spending my time and effort becoming
It's
some?
worth it. It's worth it. But how much you'll earn depends on what your skills are, where you end up working, and some fields they're more paying than others. I mean, it's no different than how much does your Bollywood star make, and how much does a TV actor make, and how much does
Right. And
a theater person make.
for an entry level role, what do generally people uh, take home?
Let
Maybe in the UK context.
Yeah. Oh, no, no. Let me look up the entry level data science salaries. I'm still sharing scenes with you. So in London, and remember, London is quite expensive. So in Indeed.co UK, they say that how much are they planning to pay us? Well, 15,000 to 20,000, but that's an apprenticeship. But I think they would say junior to mid-level data scientists, they would earn £30,000 or more per annum.
Right.
I mean, and that's the plan. And in some areas, in near Birmingham, it's supposed to be 20 to 25,000. So again, depending on where you're working and the kind of field you're working in, and how in demand it is, your salary could start at 20,000. It could start at 30,000. And someone says that based on 13,868 salaries, they say the salary is
Wow.
57,794 per annum.
Wow.
And
That's pretty huge,
this
actually.
is it's huge. I mean, this is an approximation, but I think it just gives you a benchmark of
Sure.
what you could really get.
Sure.
And I don't know how it would work in India, but I expect that.
Now we move to the next part of that podcast on what is the
Yeah.
structured learning path if somebody, a newbie who wants to, who aspires to become a data scientist, how should he start
Sure.
learning?
Okay, now I get that, and today I was having a conversation with a student about this. I mean, how do you go about learning data science or getting started? The first thing I'd say is that you should get a hang of statistics, basic statistics. I think you should be up to speed on that, because a lot of things that uh, machine learning and statistics, it's not the same, but with statistics you build a foundation. And when I say statistics, you need to have a handle on inferential statistics, regression models, the assumptions that go into a regression model, what exactly does a regression model tell you and what it doesn't tell you, and
Right.
some of the common regression techniques, GLMs, because the GLM model that again makes an appearance in machine learning for binary classification. So my course on applied statistics, the one I have on Udemy, that covers the whole sequence of topics that you need to know
Okay.
quite well. So if you know all of those topics, it's a pretty huge course, I think more than 10 hours long. So if you master all of these inside out, then I think you have a very good foundation to jump onto the next level of things with machine learning. And the second thing that you should learn is R, programming languages, which is either R or Python. In academia, we use R a lot, and in industry, they use Python a lot. But I suggest people should know both. You can start with R. It's much easier to get started with R, but obviously you'll have to go on further to learning Python as well, especially if you want to work in the industry.
Understood. Friends, we have Minerva's Udemy course link right into this description.
Mhm.
Please feel free to uh, check it out and join if you feel it's relevant for you.
Yes.
Right. What is the prerequisite for starting this? I mean, should I start this from my graduation? Should I start from when people take up their science undergraduate courses?
Well, we never had that when I started my undergraduate courses, and very few people did. So no one is too late. The idea is that as soon as you are comfortable with statistics and using R and a bit of Python, and you understand what are the assumptions behind machine learning algorithms, what they can tell you and what they won't tell you, then I think you're good to get started. And then it's a question of actually working with real life data of your choices to, start applying what you learn. That's what I do a lot in my courses, that whenever possible, I try to work with real life data. So the more you work with real life data, as opposed to the inbuilt R data sets, the more you understand how machine learning can be applied to different kinds of data and different kinds of contexts. And that's a very good way of getting started. And and then people can zero on what exactly would they like to focus on eventually. Would you like to just focus on GIS-based applications the way I do, or do something like deep learning or even text mining, which, I mean, these are things that I have done as well. But essentially, once you have a broad base, then you just drill down. It's the same with any other field.
Right. And it seems that you seem to be self-taught about data science. I mean, you don't have a formal degree with any.
Oh no, my formal degree is in ecology. It's not in data science. I did a lot of data science, but it's in ecology, not in data science.
Right. So yeah. So a lot of inspiration actually we can take from you itself. And where do you practice such real life data sets? I mean, do you take the Kaggle data set? Where do you get such kind of data sets to practice?
Well, in my work, I get all those data from the actual research that I go out and do in the field. But when I teach students and people, and sometimes even for my own knowledge, I get them off Kaggle. Then there's data.world, that has data sets. You also have the UCL machine repository that has a couple of different data sets. So I use those as well.
Okay. One last question. What advice would you like to give people who are aspiring to become data scientists?
Statistics, and more statistics. Programming, more programming. I think it's a question of just sticking to these basics, building a strong base and learning as much R and then as much Python as you can, and make sure that you practice daily. It's like when I was teaching myself data science and I wanted to use it in my PhD, everyone told me this is not a good idea. No one's done it. So, because that created an extra challenge for me. So every day I'd make sure that I was coding in R. Didn't matter what I was coding. I was looking at other people, what other people had done, what I could do. But basically do it every day.
Right. Okay. Excellent, Minerva. Thank you so much for your time. We wish you
Welcome.
good luck for your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for having me here.